Joining me in the studio today to discuss the controversial outcome of the Elor Azaria manslaughter case is retired Brigadier General Meir Elran and criminal law expert Sharon Nahari. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so let's just kind of begin with how we're feeling about this. Do you agree with the sentencing that we saw today?
Well, I think that it's a reasonable sentence. I don't have any problem with that. But I must be very honest with you to tell you that I'm not really interested in the case itself, but in the story. In other words, what was the problem, what was the issue, and how it was handled, and what, if any, repercussions it might have on so many important spheres in the country, in this society.
So we'll get to that a little later on in our interview,
yeah.
kind of, you know, the impact this is going to have on military protocol and Israelis as a whole. But Sharon, what is your take on this?
I think that the court, at the end of the day, make a balance, which is, I said, proportional to the case. We need to remember that it's a 19 years old soldier that make a big mistake. And on the other hand, it was a terrorist that come to attack and to kill soldiers. And for the consequences, the court, I think, make a good balance. The one hand, they decided he's guilty, and he didn't accept all the arguments. And on the other hand, the 18 months in jail will be, I think, a good balance for all of the picture.
Well, it's much less than the 3 to 5 years that the prosecution
That's
was
what the prosecution
right.
asked,
So in that sense, I mean, you can say there is that balance. But, you know, can Azaria appeal this decision further? And I mean, we already know that they're going to be trying to do that, but what will the impact be? Will we see a pardon happen, perhaps?
First of all, Azaria can appeal according to the law. The prosecution can appeal as well. We don't know yet who's going to appeal. They just need to study the verdict. Azaria can appeal, the prosecution can appeal, anyone can appeal, both sides can appeal. But what the consequences will be, the High Court, we don't know. But I think the balance is it's in favor of Azaria and not in favor of the prosecutor.
Now let's get back to kind of the wider issue here, which we were speaking about earlier. You know, how is this case going to impact future military protocol, you know, in the IDF?
Well, I think that the military strategy or the military perception of those situations, of these kinds of situations, is quite clear, has been very clear, very, very consistent, and it will remain as it has been for years. In other words, you do not shoot at a person who is helpless, even if he or she were or are terrorists, okay? You do what you have to do when you are engaged in a military situation, in an operational situation, but once the operational situation is over, that's it. You do not use your power as a soldier, you do not use your weapon to murder another person, because we have to remember that terrorists are people, okay? And if that's the case, and this is the stand or the position and the philosophy of the Israeli military, it will stay intact.
What do you say to, you know, the protesters that are out here supporting Elor Azaria and saying that, well, you know, this moral code is only being imposed on Israel because of the international pressure that Israel is receiving?
No, well, this is not the case. It's not an international issue at all. It's a domestic issue. It's a social issue. It's a moral issue, okay? And that's what I'm going to say to anybody who is willing to listen, okay? People have all the right to say what they think and what they feel. There's no problem with that. But when it comes to decisions, we have the military to decide how to conduct an operational situation, and we have the court system to deal with judicial issues. The street and the people have no role here. They can protest. They are free to protest, okay? Through any kind of a political process, that's absolutely okay in a democracy, but they are not the ones to decide.
Now, speaking of the public voice, you know, when we look at you guys from a more personal perspective, you're both fathers and you're both Israelis. How do you feel about sending your children to the army? I know that you have young children, Sharon. Does this outcome in any way affect how you feel about sending your kids to the military?
Not at all. I think that we, in this kind of case, exactly as my friend said, you're not allowed to kill innocent people, innocent I mean, which is unarmed and injured on the floor. Exactly the same as I and you don't want that our children will go to do an operation in Gaza and they take the weapon and they'll be injured on the floor and some Palestinian will come and shoot the head. Exactly the same. Exactly the same is medical treatment, that you have to treat people who are terrorists or that you like them or you don't like them. You're not allowed to kill someone that's sitting on the floor, staying on the floor, injured and unarmed. So, if my kids look now and see what are the borderlines, that you cannot act as you want on the one hand and to do what you want, and on the other hand, the state of Israel doesn't throw you away to hell.
To the wolves, right?
Yeah, because on the one hand they said that you are not right, that you are guilty. On the one hand, they didn't give you punishment, which is manslaughter. First of all, I think it's not a manslaughter; it's a murder. What we saw in the camera, it's murder. It's not a manslaughter. They make him a big favor that they execute him at the beginning. They charge him with a manslaughter.
Right.
So if someone shoot in the head of someone else, it need to be the verdict will be that he's guilty. On the other hand, they make a very, very big discount for him, that they send him only to 18 months in jail. That's what I think. So our kids need to know the border, the limits. The same way they don't want that their friend will be catch in Gaza and someone will shoot them at the head while they will stay injured on the floor.
Right.
So this is an international convention. It's not terrorist, lesbian, gays. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What are you or what race are you, Christian, Muslim? It's not allowed.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining us, and
Thanks for
we'll just
having
have to
us.
see what happens with the appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you.